How I Mastered English. Hi everyone, welcome back to English Chronicle. Today, I want to share my personal journey of how I mastered English. If you're struggling with learning English or feel like giving up, this video is just for you. I'll tell you about the challenges I faced, the mistakes I made, and the steps I took to finally become confident in speaking, reading, and writing English. Trust me, I know how frustrating it can be when the words just don't come out, or when you feel embarrassed about your accent. But here's the good news. If I can do it, so can you. So grab a pen, take some notes, and let me inspire you to take your English skills to the next level. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel English Chronicle and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new tip, story, or motivational video about learning English. Alright, let's get started. Learning English wasn't something I always thought about. It wasn't until I realized how important the language would be for my personal and professional growth that I decided to take it seriously. For me, the journey started with a simple yet powerful motivation. I wanted to open up more opportunities in life. I knew that speaking English fluently would give me access to better jobs, allow me to connect with people from around the world, and help me understand different cultures and ideas. This was the beginning of my drive to learn English, and looking back, it's amazing to see how far I've come. One of the biggest motivators for me was the idea of personal growth. I wanted to challenge myself. I wasn't satisfied with the way I was communicating in English. It felt limiting. At the time, I saw many of my friends and colleagues speaking confidently in English, and I wanted that for myself too. I wanted to be able to speak, read, and write English with ease, just like they did. I realized that if I wanted to grow in my career and connect with a wider range of people, mastering English was essential. This realization hit me hard, and I knew I had to start working towards my goal. Another reason I was motivated to learn English was because of my love for travel and experiencing new things. I knew that English was a global language and that it would allow me to explore new countries, meet new people, and learn about different cultures. Every time I saw someone easily conversing in English while traveling or watching English language content, it inspired me even more to push through my struggles. It became clear to me that English would open doors to adventures, both personally and professionally. I wanted to be able to travel without the barrier of language, to connect with people from all walks of life and understand their stories. But most importantly, my motivation came from the belief that learning English would help me become a better version of myself. It wasn't just about mastering grammar or vocabulary. It was about growing as an individual. It was about developing the confidence to express myself and communicate my thoughts clearly. I knew that mastering English would take time, effort, and determination, but I was ready for the challenge. I was excited to begin this journey and take one step at a time, no matter how difficult it might seem. Looking back, I can say that motivation played a huge role in keeping me going, even when things got tough. Whether it was my career goals, my desire to connect with others, or my love for new experiences, these motivations kept me focused on my path. And I encourage you to think about what motivates you. What do you hope to achieve by mastering English? Whether it's for personal reasons, career opportunities, or just a desire to explore the world, remember that your motivation is your driving force. When times get tough, Your motivation will remind you why you started, and it will push you to keep going. So, what's your motivation? What is driving you to learn English? Think about it, and let it inspire you to keep moving forward on your own journey. Trust me, no matter where you are in your learning process, every little step counts, and your motivation will be the fuel you need to succeed. One of the most important lessons I learned while mastering English was the value of consistency. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by how much there is to learn, but the truth is, small daily efforts add up to huge progress over time. The key to improving your English or any skill really is making time for daily practice. It doesn't matter how much time you have. It's more about how consistently you show up and put in the effort. In the beginning, finding time to practice every day seemed like a challenge. I had a busy schedule with school, work, and other responsibilities, and it felt impossible to fit in daily English practice. But I quickly realized that if I didn't make the time, I wouldn't make any progress at all. So, I had to get creative with how I work English practice into my daily routine. One of the strategies that helped me was setting aside small, dedicated blocks of time each day. At first, I started with just 15 minutes a day. I didn't worry about long hours of study or memorizing hundreds of words. Instead, I focused on making English a part of my daily life, even if it was just for a short amount of time. I made it a habit to practice every single day, no matter how busy I was. Whether it was listening to an English podcast while commuting, reading an article in English, or writing a short journal entry, I made sure I was doing something to engage with the language each day. The key here is to make English a routine. Find moments throughout the day when you can squeeze in practice. For example, you can listen to English songs or podcasts during your commute, read English books or articles during your lunch break, or use language learning apps during your free time. These small, everyday actions will help you improve naturally, and before you know it, you'll find yourself thinking in English more often. It's also important to make this practice enjoyable. If you can find activities that you actually enjoy while practicing English, it will be much easier to stick with it. For example, watching your favorite English movies or TV shows, playing language games, or chatting with friends in English can make practice feel less like a chore and more like something fun. The more you enjoy the process, the more motivated you will be to continue. Another helpful tip is to track your progress. I kept a simple journal where I noted what I practiced each day. Whether it was learning new vocabulary, practicing pronunciation, or listening to a podcast, writing it down helped me stay accountable and motivated. Seeing my progress, no matter how small, reminded me that I was improving. This helped me stay focused on my goal and kept me from feeling discouraged. Remember, the goal is not to be perfect, but to be consistent. Even if you only have 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's enough. Over time, these small amounts of practice will add up and lead to big improvements. The most important thing is that you're showing up every day, putting in the effort and slowly building your skills. So, think about your daily schedule and find ways to make English a part of it. Whether it's through listening, speaking, reading, or writing, try to make it a habit that you stick with every day. And remember, every little bit of practice counts. With time, you'll start to see the results, and your English skills will improve in ways you never expected. One of the most effective ways to improve your English is by listening to it every day. Listening helps you become more familiar with the rhythm, tone, and pronunciation of the language, which are crucial for becoming fluent. In fact, listening to English content, like YouTube videos, can make a huge difference in how well you understand and speak the language. When I first started learning English, I knew that listening to native speakers would help me improve my vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension. But instead of just passively listening, I found that watching videos on YouTube was an excellent way to actively engage with the language. There are so many channels that focus on teaching English, and by watching them daily, I could learn new words, phrases, and sentence structures without feeling like I was studying. YouTube is a gold mine for English learners. Channels like this one, English Chronicle, provide practical advice, language tips, and motivational content that you can easily follow. The great thing about videos on YouTube is that they give you the chance to hear real people speaking naturally. You will hear different accents, expressions, and everyday vocabulary that textbooks often miss. This helps you understand how English is used in real-life situations, making it easier to apply what you learn when you're speaking or writing. For example, I remember watching videos of native English speakers discussing simple topics like daily life or their hobbies. Even though I didn't understand everything at first, I paid close attention to how they spoke, their intonation, and the way they use words. Over time, I started to pick up new words and phrases, and I began to understand their meaning from the context. I made a habit of watching videos every day. Some videos were short, others were longer, but I always tried to listen actively. I'd pause the video if I didn't understand something and look up the meaning of new words. I also practiced repeating sentences and imitating how the speaker said things to improve my pronunciation. Another great part of YouTube videos is that you can pause, rewind, and rewatch sections to ensure you understand everything. It's not like listening to a conversation where you might not have a chance to ask the speaker to repeat something. With YouTube, you have full control over your learning. You can slow down the video, put subtitles on, or replay difficult sections until it clicks. In addition to watching educational videos, I also recommend watching movies, TV shows, or even YouTube vlogs that interest you. Watching content that you enjoy will make the process much more fun and engaging. Whether it's a cooking tutorial, a travel vlog, or a motivational speech, you'll be exposed to a variety of words and expressions that will enhance your understanding of English. The key to improving your listening skills is consistency. Try to listen to English content for at least 20 to 30 minutes a day. Over time, you'll notice how much more natural it feels to understand what's being said. Plus, your listening skills will get sharper, making it easier to follow conversations in English. So, make YouTube a part of your daily routine. Find channels that teach English, and also watch videos that entertain or inform you in English. It doesn't matter what you're watching as long as you're listening and absorbing the language. The more you expose yourself to English in different contexts, the more fluent you'll become. Remember, it's not just about listening passively. It's about actively engaging with the content. Rewind, pause, and repeat whenever necessary. With daily practice, you'll start to notice a huge improvement in your listening comprehension, vocabulary, and overall fluency in English. Keep listening, keep learning, and enjoy the process. Learning through mistakes. Turning errors into lessons. One of the most important things I learned in my English journey is that mistakes are not something to fear, but to embrace. They are a natural part of learning and a great opportunity to improve. In the beginning, I made many mistakes, whether in pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary, and I often felt discouraged. But over time, I realized that each mistake was a chance to learn. Whenever I made an error, I reflected on it. I would think about what went wrong and how I could correct it next time. This helped me improve faster and avoid making the same mistakes repeatedly. Asking for feedback from others also helped me understand where I needed to improve. The more I practiced, the more I learned from my mistakes and the more confident I became. Instead of trying to be perfect, I focus on expressing myself clearly. I stopped fearing mistakes and saw them as part of the process. Over time, I made fewer errors and grew more confident in speaking and writing English. So, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep practicing. Every mistake is a step towards mastering English. Staying motivated while learning English can be tough at times, especially when progress feels slow. However, one of the best ways I stayed on track was by celebrating small wins along the way. It's easy to focus on big goals, but it's the small achievements that keep you motivated and remind you that you're improving. For me, every new word I learned, every conversation I had without feeling too nervous, and every article I finished reading was a small win. At first, I focused on mastering simple phrases or learning 5 new words every day. When I achieved these goals, I took a moment to feel proud of myself. Recognizing these small victories helped me build confidence and made me realize that I was making real progress. I also kept track of my improvements, whether it was through a notebook or a language app. Every time I saw how much I had learned, it fueled my motivation to keep going. It's easy to feel discouraged if you only focus on the bigger picture, but looking back at what you've already achieved gives you the encouragement you need to move forward. Another way to celebrate small wins was by rewarding myself. After completing a challenging task or reaching a milestone, I'd treat myself to something special, like watching a favorite TV show or enjoying a good meal. This made the learning process feel more rewarding and enjoyable. Remember, learning English is a journey, and celebrating small wins helps keep your motivation high. Every step forward, no matter how small, is an achievement worth recognizing. Stay focused, celebrate your progress, and keep moving forward. You're closer to your goal than you think. One of the biggest challenges I faced while learning English was the habit of translating everything from my native language into English. At first, it felt natural to think in my own language and then try to find the right words in English. But this slowed me down and made conversations more difficult. Over time, I realized that to truly become fluent, I needed to start thinking directly in English. The key to making this shift was practice. At first, I would think about simple things in English, like describing my day or planning what to eat. Instead of translating each word, I tried to think of the entire sentence in English. It was challenging at first, but the more I did it, the easier it became. Slowly, my brain began to adjust, and I started to think in English without even realizing it. I also practice by reading and listening to English content more often. By surrounding myself with the language, I began to pick up phrases, expressions, and ideas in context. This made it easier to think directly in English because I was becoming more familiar with how native speakers express themselves. Another helpful exercise was speaking to myself in English. Whether I was alone or just walking around, I'd try to describe what I was doing in English. For example, I'd say, "I'm walking to the store. It's a beautiful day, and I'm thinking about my plans." This helped me practice thinking in real time without relying on translation. Over time, as I continued practicing, I noticed that I was becoming more fluent. Conversations flowed more easily, and I stopped pausing to think of the right word or translation. This shift from translation to thinking directly in English was a big step toward fluency. If you're struggling with this, don't worry. It takes time, but with consistent practice, your brain will begin to think in English naturally. The more you immerse yourself in the language and practice thinking in it, the faster you'll become fluent. Learning English, like any new skill, comes with its challenges. There were times when I felt frustrated, overwhelmed, and even thought about giving up. But what kept me going was learning how to stay patient and persistent. It's easy to expect quick results, but the truth is that language learning is a long-term journey, and success comes with time and consistent effort. One of the biggest challenges I faced was dealing with mistakes. At first, I felt embarrassed when I made errors, especially when speaking. I worry about my accent or whether I was using the wrong word. But I soon realized that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. Instead of letting them discourage me, I learned to embrace them as opportunities to improve. Every mistake taught me something new, and that helped me grow. Another challenge was staying motivated during difficult times. There were moments when progress seemed slow, and I questioned whether I was improving at all. It's easy to get discouraged when you don't see immediate results, but I reminded myself that every step forward, no matter how small, was progress. I kept track of my improvements, even the little ones, and celebrated them. This helped me stay motivated and see that I was moving in the right direction. Patience was key. I had to accept that learning English wasn't going to happen overnight. Instead of rushing, I focus on steady progress and consistent practice. Even if I only had a few minutes a day to study or practice speaking, I made sure to use that time effectively. Over time, these small efforts added up, and I saw significant improvements. Persistence was just as important. There were times when I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, but I reminded myself that language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Every time I felt discouraged, I pushed through and kept practicing. Whether it was reading, listening, or speaking, I made sure to stay committed to the process, even when it was tough. The most important lesson I learned is that patience and persistence are the keys to overcoming challenges in language learning. Progress takes time, and it's okay to have setbacks along the way. Keep going, stay patient, and be persistent. Eventually, you'll look back and see how far you've come, and the challenges you once faced will feel like distant memories.